All right, so today we're gonna work on a POGL, talking about pH. I know in biology you talked about pH and you know what the pH scale is now, and you might even be familiar with some of the numbers like 7 and 14. But in chemistry we go a little bit further and we want to know why are those numbers what they are. And so that's what we're going to look into today. And what better way to do that than with a POGL? So here's the first question. Why? In biology and other science courses, pH is introduced as a way to quantify the acidity or basicity of a solution. This property can be measured using a pH probe. And so a pH probe is something that you would basically insert into a solution, and it would just tell you the pH. Another way we would use it to measure pH in our class would be with an indicator paper strip. There's numerous indicator paper strips. One that is very common is litmus paper. Litmus paper is just either red or blue litmus paper. If red stays red or turns blue paper red, then it is an acidic solution. If you put blue paper in and it stays blue or turns or red paper turns blue, then it is basic. Other indicators are we can have pH strip that actually goes a whole range of colors, things like that. But what is it, what's making it turn those colors? And so that's what we're going to look at. So in Model 1, remember, we use in POGLs, we look at models to tell us things. So here we have a lot of numbers, a lot of ones, a lot of zeros. And so we have a lot of beakers 1 through 10. We have solutions with different concentrations. You should be familiar with those capital M's. Capital M's mean molarity. So we have 0.1 in beaker 1, 0.10 molar HCl. These are all beakers 1 through 5, hydrochloric acid, and beakers 6 through 10 are sodium hydroxide. AQ means solutions, aqueous. The first four are acidic. 5 and 6 are neutral, and 7 through 10 are basic. H3O plus is the next column. You don't know what that is yet, but we will find out. Then OH minus, that's the hydroxide ion. And then the last column we will talk about here in a minute. So let's look at question 1. It says, what does the symbol H3O plus in Model 1 indicate? Well, let's look at the column underneath. What is it telling you? It is the 1.0 times 10 to the negative first, what? Well, it's got a capital M. So that's indicating the molarity of the H3O plus. So again, remember, we don't want to overthink this. That those brackets are telling you the molarity of the H3O plus. In beaker 2, which ion has a higher concentration? Remember, ions have a charge. So we have only two things that have charges. We have the H3O plus and we have the OH minus. And so in beaker 2, which one of these has a higher charge? We have 1 times 10 to the negative third. And we have 1 times 10 to the negative 11th. Which one is a larger number? Well, that would be the 10 to the negative third, and that is the H3O plus. So the H3O plus has the higher concentration. Number 3, describe how the concentration of hydronium ion was calculated for beaker 3 in Model 1 from the concentration of the acid. So in beaker 3, so let's look at beaker 3. What's the concentration? 0.000010. And there you have the hydronium ion concentration, which is 1.0 times 10 to the negative fifth. Well, if you're smarter than the average bear, which I believe all of you are, you recognize that those two numbers are exactly the same. So the concentration, which again is the H3O plus, is the same as the molarity of the acid. Four says, describe how the concentration of the hydroxide ion was calculated for beaker 8 in Model 1 from the concentration. So beaker 8, here's the concentration, and let's look at the hydroxide. So this is the hydroxide. Well, this is 0.00010, and this is 1 times 10 to the negative fourth. And again, being smarter than the average bear, you can see that the hydroxide ion, which is OH negative 1, is the same as the molarity, or the concentration, of the base. This is the base, by the way. How do I know it's a base? Because they're telling me it's basic. How do I know this is an acid? Well, besides the fact you know that HCl is hydrochloric acid, they're telling you it's an acid. All right. Which ion, hydronium or hydroxide, has a higher concentration in an acidic solution? So let's go back and look at this. And all of those that are acidic, which one is bigger? So these are your acids. Which ones are bigger? Hopefully you see that this side is larger than this side. So that would be the H3O plus. And that's the hydronium ion, if you don't remember. And hydronium again is the H3O plus. And in a neutral solution, what do we know about these? In a neutral solution, they are equal. That means the H3O plus is equal to the hydroxide. So which statement is true for basic solutions? Does that mean the hydroxide ion is less than 1 times 10 to the negative 7th? It must be more than 10 times 10 to the negative 7th? Or it must be more than or equal to? Well, let's go look. Those are those that are basic. And again, we're looking for about the hydroxide. And this is our hydroxide. What do we know? There must be more. There must be more than it. So that's B. Remember, when the exponents are negative, it's a smaller negative number is actually bigger. All right, number 8. A student makes the following statement on an exam. Acidic solutions contain hydronium ions, while basic solutions contain hydroxide ions. Is the student's statement correct based on the information in Model 1? Explain. Well, based on Model 1, if you look at it, if it's basic, does that mean it's only got hydroxide ions, or do they have hydroxide and hydronium ions? Hopefully, looking at this, you can see that the student is not correct. So no, both ions are present And if you remember from the video, they're both present because water, again, when they collide, you get the H3O plus and the OH minus present. All right, calculate the quantity H3O plus times OH minus for each of the 10 beakers in Model 1. It says divide the work among the members in your group. Well, luckily, you have me as your partner. But I want you to do this as well. I'm going to get rid of all my writing here because you need practice. Remember, scientific notation in your calculator, you're either going to be typing in, for example, you're either going to type in 1 and then the EXP and then -1, or you're going to type in 1 and then your times 10 to the whatever power, and then -1. However your calculator does it, that's how you're going to do it. But remember, you never type in 1 and then the times multiplication key, etc. So I'm going to type in 1 times 10 to the -1 times 1 times 10 to the -13th. And I get 1.0 times 10 to the -14th. Next one, 1 times 10 to the -3rd times 1 times 10 to the -11th. And I get 1.0 times 10 to the -14th. I'm going to do it again, 1 times 10 to the -5th times 1 times 10 to the -9th. And guess what? So you can probably see a pattern. And in math, when you have a pattern, a lot of times we call that a constant. Now, are those two columns always the same next to this column? No, they're always different, or they've been always different. It's just when we multiply them together, they always are the same answer. So H3O plus times OH minus will always be 1 times 10 to the -14th, or 1.0. So basically, if you know the hydronium ion concentration of a solution, how could you determine the hydroxide ion concentration? That means if you know this and you know this, can you solve for the last thing? Well, heck yeah. So you would rearrange this to get OH minus. You would take 1 times 10 to the -14th and you divide it by H3O plus.